Broken Arrow is a large-scale, real-time modern warfare tactics game with a unique army building system and deep units customization tools that allow for endless replayability. With over 300 realistic military units and technologies, each battle is more immersive than ever before. The base game features both the American and Russian factions, each containing 5 unique sub-factions like the Marines, Armored, Airborne, and more. Broken Arrow looks to bring the genre to a whole new level by combining the complexity of a joint forces wargame with the typical real-time tactics action-packed gameplay. You can deploy on the battlefield via land, sea, or air. Use paratroopers or helicopters to rapidly seize key locations, reinforce them with heavy tanks, and break enemy counterattacks with artillery and tactical missile strikes. You'll also be able to fight on large urban battlefields, landing with your amphibious troops in large industrial harbors, airdropping troops and vehicles to seize airports and bases, fight in the middle of a large refinery or cities filled with large apartment blocks, malls, and high-rises. There are plans for 6 different categories of units, with recon units featuring vehicles, drones and sniper teams, infantry armored with rifles, machine guns, rocket and grenade launchers, as well as anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles. Fighting vehicles including tanks, ATGM carriers and fire support vehicles. Artillery and anti-aircraft vehicles form the support category of units, and you'll also be able to deploy helicopters and airplanes. Now, if you thought this was amazing up to now, you'll also have a powerful scenario editor that you can use to create missions and scenarios that you can then share on the Steam Workshop without ever having to write a single line of code. Command a strike force of Marines, mercenaries, and criminals in a distant system cut off from the core worlds in an upcoming game called Menace. At the Lawless Frontier, the Wayback System is controlled by pirate warlords, questionable corporations, and fractured planetary governments who struggle for a new order. Though you initially lead your strike force or marines from aboard the strike cruiser TCRN Impetus, you'll quickly need to unite the disparate locals under your leadership to defeat an unknown threat. Field tanks, mechs, and infantry squads with a massive selection of equipment to choose from. You'll train your troops, plan out your operations, and engage in deadly tactical battles in this turn-based tactical RPG. Your approach is entirely yours to determine. As distress calls roll in, calling you from planet to planet, you can decide which to respond to, what resources to employ, and when to engage based on your readiness levels. Your choices will determine how the local factions feel about your presence, with a direct impact on your relations with them, and what favors they may be willing to do for you. Will you prioritize relations with the arms dealers for access to better equipment on the battlefield, or will you set aside their needs, focusing on shipwrights instead to gain access to ship upgrades that can support your ground troops from orbit? With all communications cut off, you are at the top of the chain of command, and your team of Marines, mercenaries, and criminals will turn to you for answers. Any single operation is not limited to one battlefield, instead taking you on branching paths of multiple missions, each asking you to engage in a series of battles across entire worlds. Make strategic decisions as you progress through an operation, choosing between the missions available to you. Will you first take out the enemy air defenses that keep you from landing tanks, or will you press directly into the enemy to rescue a group of hostages and gain the trust of the locals? Proceed mission by mission to complete the operation and ultimately further your grand campaign. But beware, every decision has severe consequences, not just for the operation at hand, but the entire system itself.
These dogs got by! Taking fire! Incoming!
Enemy hardware.
Hostiles.
They keep coming.
Now, the next game to be featured is a game that I've been closely following for a very long time now, and it's called Zerospace. It's going to be the first ever RTS where all game modes, single player, co-op, PvE and PvP are played in a shared MMO galaxy map. It's looking to feature some incredibly unique game modes for a game based in the RTS genre, including a campaign where in-game decisions and choices will affect your story arc. a Galactic War MMO mode where you coordinate alongside other Alliance members to deploy troops on enemy planets, to complete missions, and slowly conquer enemy strongholds. Promising to have an epic sci-fi story that sets up the galactic conflict, you can make choices that changes the universe inspired by classic narrative RPGs like Mass Effect, building deep relationships with your crew and the heroes you enlist during the campaign. I've been following Zerospace for quite some time now, and out of all the RTS games I've come across, it's the one I feel is pushing the boundaries of the genre the most. Combine a style of campaign which is very unique in the RTS sphere, alongside a galactic MMO style cooperative game mode. Whilst this is seemingly a huge task for the developers, theoretically, this game has many of the ingredients to become a massively played and enjoyed real-time strategy game. There is already an incredibly friendly online community developing around the game, with multiple playtests occurring throughout the year, with developers on hand taking community feedback seriously. Quoted to have an unparalleled strategic depth, you can construct a crushing strategy by combining over 80 units together, making each match different and unlocking more opportunities for dynamic counterplay. Definitely looking to push the boundaries of anything achieved in RTS before. If Zerospace can complete what they've set out to do, they'll quite possibly take the RTS genre to another level. Now, this next game is incredibly anticipated. It's Age of Darkness Final Stand. It's about to leave early access, and it's a dark fantasy survival RTS where you must illuminate, build, and defend humanity's last bastion against hordes of nightmares. Set in the remnants of a kingdom consumed by a deadly fog, you decide. Will you hide in the light, or take back your world? The darkness is an entity of evil. Some say it is a manifestation of human fear and nightmares. Others say it is a wandering mass of damned souls haunting us. The origin of the darkness itself is unknown, but one thing for certain is that we can keep it at bay through the power of light and fire. In this game, you'll need to brace yourself against huge tidal waves of nightmares, leveraging an internally developed technology called Swarm Tech, which allows the game to render 70,000 enemy units on the screen at one time. These enemy legions can claw their way up through seething fissures in the earth to reinforce the Veil. Light up a rich, complex, procedurally generated map to claim territory back from the Veil, a dynamic living death fog that conceals enemies and drains life from your troops. Holding the line against this terror is not for the faint of heart. Borrowing from the roguelite genre, Menaces are random afflictions placed on the player during every death knight, unraveling the best-made plans. Conversely, if a death knight is survived, you may decide between 3 randomly selected blessings, enriching the experience and giving your army a much-needed edge. The game does also feature heroes which you can use to lead the charge against the horrors of the night with powerful and unique abilities. Using these abilities gained from leveling up, these heroes can be key to turning the tide of a desperate battle. But beware, the nightmares have elite roaming champions of their own that drop precious resources when killed, posing an extreme and ever-present threat to your expansion. Visually, I really enjoy the look of this game, and if you have played Age of Darkness Final Stand, let me know what you think of it in the comment section below. Pretty excited to see what you guys think. A new RTS game that recently caught my eye was 2089 Space Divided. It's described as a classic science fiction real-time strategy game in which you collect resources, build up your base, train troops, and destroy your enemy, just as all good RTS games should be. In 2089 Space Divided, you become the commander of one of 2 factions, the Andara or the Red Axe. Travel to alien worlds for your faction and fight for supremacy. Developed by Coast Games, a small studio based in Kiel, Germany, 2089 Space Divided is their first ever game, and it's quite an interesting one because, well, mostly the survival mode. You can choose between 2 maps where you fight off waves of enemy attacks to defend your central base. It's quite fun to play this game mode for a couple of hours, and with the game only recently having entered version 1.0, maybe we'll see some more content in the future. The 2 factions do offer some good variety in playstyles and types of units, and there are essentially 3 resources in 2089 Space Divided: Crystal, energy, and Titan. You'll need workers to gather crystal, a Titan mine to gather Titan, and energy generators to get your energy. You'll also need to make sure that you have enough storage for your energy, and Titan storages to make sure your economy keeps on growing. The survival mode is but one of a few game modes in 2089 Space Divided. However, you can also play the single-player skirmishes with and against AI. There is also an online multiplayer mode, and both the skirmish and multiplayer mode have 16 playable maps. Now granted, you'll probably need to join the Discord to coordinate online multiplayer games or find like-minded friends who you can enjoy the game to play against if multiplayer is more what you're looking for. Sadly, there isn't a campaign for 2089 Space Divided. However, it's important to recognize that the game was developed by just a handful of developers, and it was never really setting out to be the next StarCraft. Rather, it's quite a nifty indie RTS game that could be a stepping stone for its developers, Coast Games, towards bigger and better titles. And guess what? They're already planning one, but more details to come in due course. Now, a game that I am absolutely stupendously excited about is Beholder Conductor, a game that is set alongside Beholder 1 in terms of the series timeline. If this game is anything like the namesake predecessors, then it's going to be an absolutely legendary game. Personally, I've played the latest installment of the series, which is Beholder 3, and it was an absolute blast. In Beholder Conductor, you have been appointed senior conductor of a legendary train that all citizens of the country this game is based on are happy to see in their cities. Your responsibilities are maintaining order in the carriage assigned to you and providing assistance to passengers along the way. Your tools are reporting, intimidation, searches, and ejection. Sounds easy enough, right? Well, if you know Beholder games, then you know that couldn't be further from the truth. You'll need to carefully monitor the passengers and everyone who enters the carriage, decide what to do with fare evaders, observe and report all suspicious unauthorized and basically any passenger activity, search their baggage, and call the police if you find prohibited items. Move up the train to get access to the dining car or VIP compartments and carriages where high-ranking officials and big industrialists ride. Keep an eye on your colleagues and report their accepting bribes or transporting banned goods. The Ministry will not let your dedication go unnoticed. Complete secret missions and earn the trust of your superiors in order to receive special assignments. Their level of secrecy will depend on your loyalty, and completion will be rewarded with bonuses or even promotions. You'll also encounter smugglers transporting their packages along the route. Helping them is risky, but profitable. Visit various stations and remote corners of the country, make difficult decisions determining the fate of passengers and your colleagues. What kind of person will you be at the end of the journey? The choice is yours, and guess what? You have another choice too. The choice to subscribe to the channel or to not. I appreciate your support either way, and if you enjoy the content, consider it. It's free. Now, I was very pleasantly surprised to see how well the base game was doing, but today we are covering a downloadable content, a DLC called We Are Legion. It is the first DLC for Terminator, Dark Fate Defiance, a gritty real-time strategy game set in the intense universe of Terminator. It plunges players back into the heart of the conflict as they take command of Legion, the relentless machine army fighting to dominate a shattered world. This DLC expands on the story, focusing on Legion's mission to eradicate human resistance and assert dominance over a world ravaged by war. It covers a new single-player campaign where you step into the boots of Legion and experience the chilling thrill of commanding a mechanical force on a mission of annihilation. The objective is clear: destroy human settlements, surround and capture survivors, and leave no escape routes. Each strategic map becomes a battlefield where your decisions shape the fate of humanity. Engage in tactics that reflect the brutal efficiency of machines, pursue your targets, cut off their last hopes, and enforce your dominance with every calculated strike. Let's take a look at Empire Eternal, a highly unusual upcoming RTS game in which the settings will cover various different time periods of history. It looks like Empire Eternal is going to have a huge scope of units from big wooden boats to bomber aircraft, covering different time periods in history. It's going to include some of the basic and common RTS mechanics, including base building, resource management, and thrilling tactical combat. But its uniqueness will be that it will cover 20 eras of human civilization. The game was only announced on the 24th of September, and so all we really have at the moment is a trailer, but the concept looks intriguing for sure. We'll have to watch this one very closely. Now, another game that Slytherin are heavily involved in is getting a new game mode. Starship Troopers Terran Command has been doing fantastically well since its release in 2022, and has since had 2 DLCs. It has been going from strength to strength, and more recently it has been announced that it will be receiving a new territory game mode. This brand new game mode will be released early next year as part of a major free update, adding tons of new content to both the base game and the 2 currently released DLCs. It is specifically designed to focus on player choices, customization, and replayability. It allows you to use the Federation and Arachnid units from the base game and different DLCs on the territory mode maps. The new core feature of these maps are the territory points, which are spread out across the playable area. Capturing these points will increase the amount of resources you gain over time. Now, if you want to jump in early and help develop this game mode, you can sign up for the closed beta on their Steam page.
Welcome command uplink initializing. Please stand by.
Command & Conquer fans are going to love this one. If you haven't heard already, which would actually be kind of surprising, there is a new Command & Conquer style RTS on the horizon called Tempest Rising.
You have proven yourself loyal to me so far, General.
It is set in a modern-day alternative history war scenario, and it's going to feature 3 unique factions.
Our dynasty has waited long enough. Show me that my trust is not misplaced.
Each faction will have its own approach to combat and economy. The main highlight for me about Tempest Rising is going to be their campaign. We have already had a sneak peek into the initial campaign missions and cutscenes, and they do give us that time-old classic Command & Conquer vibe. The game was actually scheduled to have been released by now, but the developers have actually put back the game's release date, which is actually a very welcome change, because many companies nowadays release unfinished games. Hats off to the decision makers here, because actually now, hopefully, they will have the time to create an RTS masterpiece that Command & Conquer fans, in particular, will be excited to play for years to come. Beyond that, however, it will be having an online multiplayer mode, and judging how high it's getting on Steam wishlists, it's definitely going to be something we'll want to keep our eyes on. What if World War II was different? Well, Grit and Valor 1949 is a dieselpunk real-time tactical roguelite set in an alternative history timeline with a very different looking World War II. With Europe on its knees, the game puts you in command of an elite mech squadron with which you'll need to think fast and battle the evil Axis to liberate Europe. Survivors are few, but have regrouped under the new flag of the Resistance as the free world's last hope. Now, if that setting wasn't epic enough for you, well, this real-time strategy also combines mechs of 3 different classes: ballistics, fire, and explosive. They operate in a traditional rock-paper-scissors interaction, but there are several other interesting mechanics with optional objectives to gain rewards, environmental cover systems to ensure strategic positioning, and each mech has a unique ability that can cause havoc. Combine a small map, explosions, and abilities with waves of enemies approaching you, the game gets lively very, very quickly. The game is currently in a closed beta stage of testing that you can join through Steam and enlist your skills to help the developers shape this game. Now, whilst the fight begins on the British Isles, you'll eventually be able to make your way across Europe, but in doing so, you'll almost certainly need to visit your army base camp, where you can cash in your in-game experience for research tokens to then research various aspects of the games, whether it be unlocking the mech yard, the pilot barracks, or extra modules for your mechs. Speaking of which, at the mech yard, you'll run into Reggie Steele, the engineer of the Resistance, who will be responsible for upgrading your mechs as you cash in scrap found on the battlefield. A man who says he prefers coffee and got upset with having to drink tea instead for a day, Let's just say I hope he has better skills in upgrading your mechs than his taste in warm beverages. As an Englishman defending the British Isles in this game, I'm a little bit disappointed, Reggie. Putting the great debate of which is the better beverage, tea or coffee, the choices of which optional objectives to collect in-game, the choices of rewards you claim, and the choices of how you spend your scrap metal on upgrades, and even the choices of which mechs to deploy, sees Grit and Valor have awesome customizability in a way that is quite obvious and intuitive once you get your teeth into the game. Now I can't quite get over it, Reggie. The YouTube comments are going to have to back me up here. Guys, let me know, tea or coffee? The next major game in the planetary Annihilation universe, Industrial Annihilation. It combines the iconic real-time strategy of beloved Annihilation games with deep factory building to deliver a blend of genres that they describe to be unlike any you've experienced before. The team behind Planetary Annihilation, which has sold over 3 million units and is still being celebrated today, is back with a new twist on the popular franchise. You'll have a galactic single-player campaign to get your teeth into, with all the new full single-player story campaign, in which you can become a master constructor with intricate production pipelines that supply your killer war machine. Go for the Titan-class Superbot, or go all in with a game-ending Fusion Planet Crusher. Create the ultimate kill squad, or build up your artillery to devastate your opponent with tactical nukes. The choices are many, and are all yours. Now, after all the razzmatazz of Industrial Annihilation, if you've been looking for something a little bit more tugging on the nostalgia strings, well, take a look at D.O.R.F. Set in a twisted vision of the future, you'll be able to construct sprawling bases, scour the land for resources to mine and refine, and build up your crazy war machines in a game that, well, is really taking retro as its art style and theme. Probably not for everyone, but still probably for very, very many. You'll be able to count on D.O.R.F. to have some really interesting unit mechanics and interactions spread over 3 factions, encompassing air, land, as well as sea units. As many RTS games, it is currently being developed by an indie developer who is consistently posting update videos on his YouTube channel, so definitely worth a check out there. Now, as you can see, the creativity of the units look absolutely sublime, and it's going to be a wild process to figure out exactly how it all works. With no announcement of a release date yet, this is one that we're going to have to just keep an eye on. Another real-time strategy game that is looking to push the boundaries is Battle Aces, a fast-paced and action-orientated real-time strategy game where you defend your base, advance your tech, and attack your enemy's core. It employs a unit deck strategy with compositions for you to fight your way to victory. It's a game in which its beauty lies in its apparent simplicity, but its difficulty lies in the decisions you need to make and how quickly you need to make them. It's set in the year 2651, where humanity has claimed the solar system, but it teeters on the brink of turmoil. A breakthrough in teleportation technology has revolutionized warfare, shifting from traditional manned combat to sophisticated drone-based conflicts. As a commander and a battle ace, you will fight across the solar system in fierce 1v1 or 2v2 matches. Strategize your unit composition before each match, and unleash your tactical genius on enemies as you control your army directly from the battlefield. This new generation for real-time strategy games allows players to customize their unit deck by deploying 8 unique units with multiple tech tiers before each match, meaning that the strategic depth starts even before your battle begins. What's very different about Battle Aces is that it has automated resource gathering, preset expansions, and instant unit spawning, which allows you to focus on the action-packed battles against your opponent. Each battle is capped at 10 minutes, and so you'll only have a short time to outwit and out-strategize your opponents. However, with the way that Battle Aces plays, you'll have plenty of opportunity to do so. Developed by Uncapped Games, Battle Aces has been having beta playtests where community feedback is being sought after. You can sign up for it on Steam. Without an official release date, however, it will be interesting to see and continue to monitor the development of Battle Aces. But remember, anyone can start a war, but only a Battle Ace can win it. Including an upcoming campaign that will explore an unexpected military incursion in Europe, Global Conflagration is a new upcoming RTS that gives off Company of Heroes vibes, with the on-map checkpoint control zones that rewards players for their presence on the battlefield. Featuring 3 factions kitted out with their own unique roster of units, it looks like there'll be plenty to choose from in large-scale battles where players are encouraged to meet in the middle quickly. What's certainly exciting for me is the level of aerial units involved, and it looks like there's going to be plenty of player and unit abilities to overwhelm your enemy with called-in airstrikes, carpet bombings, and explosions. There's lots to see, lots of explosions, and you know what? I think I've been missing an RTS like this for quite some time. Now, whilst there were plans for early access to the game being available this year, the developers have since decided to delay the timeline a little bit to make sure the game comes with all the essential features expected of an RTS game, along with enough content to keep players engaged and entertained. It seems like a very sensible decision to me, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing future updates. There's not too much more I have to say about the game at the moment, so a quick reminder to say, hey, if you haven't already, make sure you are subscribed to the channel and hit that notification bell so that you get notified when you see more update videos like this. Now, a game that's recently been announced that I definitely can't wait for more updates on is called The Last General. Described as a massive RTS modern war game, it's going to be focused on high-level strategic design, economic and even political decisions. The Last General features battlefields of up to 400 kilometers squared, each of them with dozens of towns and cities to both take and protect. The large-scale design of this RTS sees you being able to guide thousands of armored vehicles, helicopters, artillery, infantry, supply and transport trucks through open field combat and close quarters to battle and defeat your enemy. And with plenty of strategic choices on offer, the Steam page asks some very provoking questions. Will you burn the entire enemy cities to the ground and lose international support? Will you rush to the enemy's capital and risk being surrounded? Will you perform targeted attacks on the enemy's factories and power plants? Will you conduct false flag operations to damage the enemy's reputation? In Stormgate, human defenders and their faithful robot allies stand defiant against 2 warring alien factions, a race of warlike demonic invaders and their technologically advanced angelic rivals. Together, these 3 are locked in a relentless struggle for dominance. Crafted by developers renowned for their work on StarCraft 2 and Warcraft 3, Stormgate puts you in command of epic, real-time strategy battles. Now, Stormgate is a game that many, including myself, had high hopes and expectations for. It was hailed as the spiritual successor to StarCraft 2 and Warcraft 3, with a lot of hype around it, a lot more than we've gotten used to from a real-time strategy game. However, it has had a very challenging start to early access to say the least, but I suspect many will still be confident that Stormgate will continue to improve significantly and potentially end up as a popular real-time strategy game. It is technically a free-to-play RTS game featuring a competitive 1v1 game mode, 3-player co-op missions, and an evolving campaign. And it was really the campaign that received a lot of criticism during its early access launch. We know that the 3v3 game mode, Stormgate editor, and ongoing campaign missions are in active development, and so there is still some opportunity to capture the hearts of many RTS fans once again. Now, this classic real-time strategy game is set in an alternate universe where dieselpunk, cyberpunk, and medieval aesthetics meet. Join the rebellion against the Zealotic Inquisition, who have been mankind's scourge for hundreds of years, and fight a war for survival. Freedom is within touch in this game called Ablight. Ablight is said to have a dark and compelling lore that spans over 1,000 years with 3 asymmetric factions, each with their own mechanics, playstyles, and strengths. It's expected to have classic real-time strategy gameplay, with an even focus on base building, economic growth, combat, and strategy, but also includes unique abilities for each faction. The game will be coming with an in-game editor so that the community can create their own maps and scenarios, in addition to indulging in the PvE survival modes, PvP ranked matchmaking with fleshed out spectator tools and replay functions. The game is aiming to have all the bells and whistles, but with a planned release date yet to be announced, we'll have to keep a close eye on this one. Rome Empire Wars allows you to gather your legions of the fiercest warriors in the whole empire to prepare for the bloodshed and create a strategy that will bring shame to the leaders across Europe. Now, this Total War-esque tactical real-time strategy game is planned to be released in September 2025 and will entail large-scale battles over Europe for the power of Rome and its emperor. As a new emperor of Rome, guide your country through the uncertain times when the empire is being constantly surrounded by enemy nations. Don't wait for the inevitable, but show them your might and bring the war to their doorstep. It's great to see another Total War-esque real-time strategy game. There aren't that many flying about these days, so it should be a bit of a breath of fresh air. It will certainly be a little bit different from what we've seen in the video so far in terms of real-time strategy games, plenty of units on show, and looks to be a squad-based tactical strategy game. We do see in some of the clips certain unit types entering certain formations, and that would be pretty cool to see in Roman Empire Wars. There is also some hinting of potentially sea-based battles in the game descriptions on Steam, but I'm yet to see any gameplay footage of it thus far. I'm certainly looking forward to the ongoing development of Roman Empire Wars. Dustfront is an absolutely epic looking real-time strategy game which plans to have elements of grand strategy, procedural worlds, and a non-linear campaign. The action takes place on a planet devastated by many wars and upheavals, where under a thick layer of soot and concrete are buried remnants of humanity's former might. As you'd expect, you'll be able to create an arsenal of tanks, air units, infantry, and various vehicles from several base construction buildings. 3 powerful factions have rare superweapons that could wipe out cities to dust, turning them into a breeding ground for incurable diseases or move entire armies straight into a chasm. So we got to finish the video with what looks to be a banger of a game, but this does cover the real-time strategy games that I'm most looking forward to in the future. If you've watched till the end of the video, well, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed your stay. But before you do go, make sure you are subscribed and hit the notification bell so that you can catch me on the next video. Take care, and see you next time.